Yo, what's up, man? It's Lito. Got a special guest in the building today. You may know him as the guy that breaks the stories and upsets the fan base. I don't know why y'all upset. Just telling the truth. I really don't understand that. But anyway, you may know him as the guy who's no holds barred when it comes to using his pen. I know him as CC now, thanks to Will Guillory. Christian Clark in the building. But before we do that, a word from one of our sponsors.
Don't never forget about where you come from. Stay focused and look out for your people, man, because they got a lot of people that ain't got nothing. And I done seen a lot of cats separate from their people and don't do nothing for them when they get up there. Don't get that big head, because that big head will be stars, like my folks say. Stars this year won't be stars next year. It's about longevity. If you ain't got no longevity set in your heart and you ain't got the mind frame to stick to this, you might as well give it up before you start.
It's all about longevity. That's what it's all about. This podcast is sponsored by Birdseye Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Booker Media, located at 918 Porter Street by the Superdome. Give them a call, 504-523-5413. If you or someone you know has been involved in an accident, be sure to mention we sent you. Christian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I don't know. I know people do get upset, but I think it's like it's just people on Twitter, you know. So it's like I think if you looked at like the whole audience or whatever, you'd be like, all right, this is like a small percentage. But I don't know. It's funny that I don't know. People see like the handful of people on Twitter who get mad, and it's like, oh man, this is like what gets cemented in people's heads.
It's funny because my first question, and I told Chris Conner this, he laughed. My first question is gonna be, or it was gonna be, Christian, why does everybody hate you? Like it's bro, like if I go through your quote tweets, it's insane. Like I forgot I think the last story you dropped was the most divisive one as far as like the fan base was the Brandon Ingram story. And like the quote tweets are just insane. So do you let me ask you this, how do you handle that? Do you read the tweets? Like how do you pay attention to it?
Yeah, I mean, like I would be lying if I said no, I never pay attention to it. Yeah, I'm definitely cognizant of it. I mute, some people if I feel like it gets too far. I don't really get the block hand out very much. I'll just mute people here and there. And, I just like, I feel like, I've been on this beat for 4 years now. I've got really good sources, like people who work for the team, who are around the team, who've worked for the team. Like I've got relationships where I can ask them stuff. I'm hearing stuff like, hey, is this right? A lot of times with my information, I'll go to like the people in charge of the team, be like, yeah, this is what I know. Like we're going to buy you. So you think, I definitely vet a lot of my information. I would say with the Ingram thing that I put out in, what was it, January, that was not weak sourcing at all. Like very strong sourcing from like a lot of different people, like people on the medical side talking about it, different areas of the team. Like it was an instance where it's like, okay, I have this rock solid and there's some very strong emotions coming from people on the team. And this information is not out there publicly. And I guess I look at my job like I think a lot of media people, they whisper out about stuff to other media people, but like, they're not going to tell the public what's actually going on in a lot of cases. And I'm like, why would I do that? If I know something, I'm going to try to report it most of the time.
I think that people don't understand that you're a reporter. I think that they think you work for the team and that you're supposed to just bring goodwill. Like, it's crazy because, I remember growing up in the 90s and having, like, reading articles about Chicago journalists writing stuff about Michael Jordan and, like, I don't think sometimes I don't think that people understand the way a reporter or a journalist is supposed to work. Whatever. Let me ask you this. Can you walk me through finding out about Griffin and Pianogate news? Like what was your immediate reaction when you found out? Like what did you say when you found this news out?
Well, first of all, so that came from a thing I think I wrote 2 years ago that dropped shortly before the season. And the one thing I'll say is it's funny to me that that's like the one detail from that very long story that broke a whole new ground that everyone remembers. No one ever brings up like all the other stuff that was reported in that story for the first time. Like Zion dipped out on the bubble after he hurt his hamstring. Griff preaching kumbaya, but telling people in the organization about Alvin Gentry. I give him all the answers to the test and he still fails. Like a pretty, nasty thing to say when you're preaching kumbaya.
Right.
Like there's so much in there. That's the thing that everybody remembers from that story. I guess like what I'll say about that is I kind of like heard from some people in the bubble, like the bubble was a weird time. I would love to know exactly what happened in there because wow, there were some stories. But yeah, I heard some stuff in the bubble. And then when I was doing that piece, I really checked it out. And I would just say like I ran it by some high ranking people who were in the bubble, got confirmation from them. And, I guess everything that happened after happened.
So let me ask you this, because it's interesting that you say that, because I do remember reading it and I do remember all of those things, but it's right. It's funny that the piano thing is the thing that stuck out. Is it annoying to you as a journalist to, I guess, give, full serving of things and then people just kind of pick it apart for like what they want it to be?
I mean, I was expecting it. Like the team really fought me to not have that come out. They tried hard to prevent it from coming out. And I knew going into that media day, I was like they didn't comment in the story. And like, I knew Griff was going to try to poke holes in it some way. And, that was the way he decided to poke holes in it. Like when Griff is a former public relations guy. So it's like a public relations strategy is you have this long thing with a bunch of new information and you look at this one thing and you talk about this one thing and be like, this is ridiculous. And then it makes, if you can like, it's almost like a legal strategy. It's like, if you can like make people like see doubt in this one thing, then, maybe they see doubt in the whole thing. So, I mean, I was expecting it, to be honest. Like I thought there would definitely be pushback.
So after they roll out the season intro video of him playing the piano, like later on, like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like, damn, I did that. That was me. I brought that to light. Like they wouldn't even have that without me.
I mean, I thought it was funny, first of all. I thought it was really smart from the Pelicans too. A great idea that was well executed. And I think, look, generally, man, this is just sports. Like we all need to be able to laugh at ourselves, including me. Like I probably take it too seriously sometimes. So like I thought it was funny and really well done. I mean, that was my reaction.
So let me ask you this: after breaking Piano Gate, right? How do you have? I love calling it that. Like it's just so funny to me. How do you have the nerve, or how do you have the fortitude to walk back into the locker room? Like, what was the first day like, that media day? Like, were there any hard feelings? Were there any awkward reactions?
I mean, yeah, it was pretty awkward for a while, and then I don't know, like a month later, it was fine and it was normal. And I would say like things have been fine and normal. And I don't know. I mean, I got, I talked to like some people who've been in media for a while, and I was like, what do you think? And they're like, look, man, you'll get some pushback, but like a lot of people are just going to like respect that you actually worked hard to put out the truth. And that was what I found. And honestly, man, it was like one of the best things I've ever done, because I had people who worked for the team who I'd never even talked to reach out to me and say, hey man, like we have to be talking. Like I have to like give you my side of the story. And like, I see you're a person who will actually like dig for the truth. And like, I had people who worked for the team who didn't know me, who started leaking me stuff after that because they read that piece.
So you mentioned pushback a couple of times. I want to know, like, what does pushback from an organization look like? Like, what is that? What does that look like in regards to what you're trying to put out?
Yeah, I mean, a specific example is, so if for people who follow the Pelicans closely, Justin Verrier was the Pelicans guy for ESPN.com. And this was before my time, but he wrote something about the Pelicans medical staff and how it wasn't up to par. And after that came out, maybe blackballed is too strong of a word, but it was never the same for him after that. And I had, someone for the team say, well, I'd hate for you to become what happened to Verrier to happen to you, kind of being like, well, if you put this out, like, maybe no one will ever talk to you again, basically. And like, this will really like screw up your career trajectory, essentially.
So hearing that, knowing what happened to Verrier, I think he's with the Ringer now, right? Or something like that.
I think he's an editor there. Yeah.
So hearing that, seeing what happened to him, what makes you decide to still go forward with it?
I mean, I had the receipts. That was the thing. It was like people, if you go back and really read that piece, like people leaked to me like slides Griff showed, like, you know, right when he got the job of like, hey, we want to preach love, we want to preach accountability, we want to preach family. And, you know, I was leaked like text messages. You know, I was told like directly by people in the organization that he said about Alvin, I give him all the answers to the test and he still fails. And the big one for me was I felt like the fans like needed to know what went wrong in the bubble, because that was an absolute debacle. Like that was ridiculous. You know, Alvin got fired in part because of that. And, you know, I think part of it was the Zion hamstring thing. And if you like, I know it's easy to think about this now, but like that was really the first piece that was like, hey, look, there's a lot of tension between Zion and the medical staff. Like, I don't know that a lot of people knew that before that. What happened this offseason? Aaron Nelson is not going to be around the team this year. So that was like way early on a huge story that, you know, there's kind of some resolution to it this summer.
How do you, the Aaron Nelson thing is funny because like it never was really, it was never really announced that he was, I guess, relieved or he wouldn't be around. It was just kind of like a transition in the story. How do you think like that situation played out with hearing maybe Zion wasn't the easiest to work with also? Like, do you think Aaron got a fair shake on his side?
That's a great question, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that, you know, anybody could have found it difficult to keep Zion healthy over these last couple of years. But at the same time, I think, you know, it was more than just like Zion and Brandon. There was some friction with Nelly. Like, I think it was, from my understanding, like quite a few players. And, you know, Nelly like had an incredible track record when he came in. But at some point, if you're just not getting along with, you know, like several players on the team, then, you know, maybe you are doing something wrong. I don't know. It's a really hard question. It is really difficult because I think, like, you know, the biggest problem with the team the last 2 years has been the lack of games that Zion and Brandon have played. And, you know, I think there is definitely blame to go around everywhere. I mean, I think Zion even took some of the blame this summer. You know, he said on Gilbert Arenas' show, like, there's a lot of things I could have done better. If you want to talk about Brandon, you know, I definitely have. I don't know what other people think. I know a lot of people within the team thought he could have, you know, played in a lot of those games that he missed with the injury the team described as a toe contusion. But I don't know. There's some shades of gray. But I think, I mean, I'm not like, after they made that move, I can't say that it was the wrong decision. I mean, you know, it's easier to change like the head of your performance team than it is like to swap out your star players.
The Brandon injury was confusing because Willie initially came on, called it one thing, then it got classified as another thing. And I don't know if it ever got clarity on what it was, but I mean, when 1 in 14 are not going to be available, I feel bad for Willie Green. I feel bad for everybody involved because, you know, nothing is going to work. Hey, man, listen, I see your background. I see AI back there. Who is your favorite basketball player of all time?
Oh, man. Always wore number 3 because of Allen Iverson. So he's definitely up there. Dirk Nowitzki has to be up there. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I mean, look, Dirk, you know, like poster child for loyalty to a franchise. I mean, his career was just so satisfying because like it looked like the Mavericks blew their chance to win a championship with this like all-time player in 2006. Looked like they would never get there again. And then Dirk is 33 years old. He's pretty old and up there when they won the championship in 2011. I love Jason the Jet Terry, definitely my favorite irrational confidence guy. Yeah, man. Those are a few.
All right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give me your all-time NBA starting 5.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let's start at point guard, and Steph set this one off this week.
Yep.
I think I'll probably take Steph. Just because I put like a lot of size at the other positions, and I just want that guy who can stretch the floor like that.
Let me ask you this before you move forward. Do you agree with what he said?
It's just so hard to like. They're just two different eras. I have a hard time. I don't know, even comparing them because the game is so different now. And it just depends who else you have in your team too. I think. I don't know. I mean, I love both of them, and like if I had to say my two greatest point guards of all time, it is Magic and Steph to me in some order. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it. I guess.
I got you. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Shooting guard.
I mean, of course, MJ.
Yeah.
Got to be MJ. Small forward. Oh no, man. Maybe probably Larry Bird.
Okay.
Get a little more passing in there. Some more shooting. Power forward. Give me KG.
Okay.
Give me Garnett just because I want somebody I can play at the 5 if I need to, if I want to go a little bit small. I definitely want somebody who could defend at this position. And I just want that intensity too. And then center, if I'm just like thinking about this team, maybe like Olajuwon, just because like incredible shot blocker, can like definitely run the pick and roll, get that mobility aspect. So yeah, I guess I'll say like if I'm just like thinking about how they fit together as a team, Steph, MJ, Bird, Garnett, and Olajuwon.
How hard was it for you to take KG over Tim?
Oh man, I mean that's like impossible. I don't know, man. I mean that's so difficult. I don't know. I just feel like I'm a big fan of like the psycho crazy guys. Probably a little bit too much. So I'm like, I always want one of those guys in my team. Like I love Jimmy Butler. I've always loved Jimmy Butler. I have like maybe like almost an irrational soft spot in my heart for those types of guys.
Yeah, me too. Same. I love that. I love that what it does to a team. It just kind of galvanizes it. Last thing about your 5, man. No LeBron? Nowhere?
Oh man. I probably, look, you probably should have. I probably should have.
No,
I don't know.
I'm just messing with you. Nah, it's cool.
I don't know, man. Like LeBron just, yeah, I think I took him out after he was, he said he was going to retire after they just got swept at the Western Conference Finals. That just like, that was like a 1-year ban on being in Christian Clark's starting 5 all time. That's all. I don't know, man. Well, like I really respect and appreciate LeBron's greatness. To me, second greatest player of all time. But like I'm just this last stage of his career with the Lakers has just been a little bit annoying to me. I mean, I really admire his career. Like, like the 2016 finals, that was like the best, like the most meaningful like finals anyone has ever won in my lifetime. I would say, that I've like paid close attention to this stuff. But God, he's just been so annoying with the Lakers.
He has, man. Stephen A. Smith said something the other day about like him and Rich Paul get into it and him and LeBron get into it because he has Mike as the greatest. And he's like, I have Bron as number 2. And he's like, what's so, they pitch a fit. And he's like, what's so wrong with being the second greatest player of all time?
I watched that and I enjoyed that interaction. And Stephen A's wearing like the, like light tinted glasses when he's sitting there saying that too. Stephen A he has like incredible swag, but I enjoyed that interaction, man. Like Rich is just so mad that Stephen A's like, yeah, he's the second greatest player of all time. Like that's a compliment actually.
This version of Stephen A, man, like the unfiltered ESPN, like non-ESPN version, like I'm really enjoying. I don't like him on ESPN. I'm not a fan of the ESPN Stephen A, but like when I see him go on other people's platforms, I guess he can just be himself without Disney. I like it.
I don't watch. I honestly like maybe once a month I'll sit down and like watch the majority of an episode of First Take. I get my Stephen A stuff through the clips, through his podcast, and I would agree with you. I enjoy that more than than the first take stuff. I do like, I definitely don't agree with it most of the time. I do respect his opinion about basketball. Like, I think he really does know hoops.
Yeah.
I think he knows people in the NBA. Like, I think he has like legit sources. So like, I think, you know, when he's talking about basketball, I'm like, okay, this is at least worth me listening to his perspective.
It's the Lonzo thing he's doing now is weird too. Like he doubles, his double down is just crazy. Like when Lonzo literally just showed a video of him standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, and he was just like, "You're not healthy." I mean, obviously he's not healthy because he can't play. He's not playing basketball this year. But he said that Lonzo couldn't sit, so that was another thing. But anyway, speaking of Stephen A., who was it that got you to want to be a journalist? Like, how did you get? Who was it that made you, or how? Who? I guess if you can name how many people you want to, you know, caught your attention to be like, I want to do that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always kind of love local news. You know, I know people don't get their news from like the newspaper anymore, but you know, when I was like even in elementary school, you know, I was trying to like scan the Fort Worth Star Telegram before I went to school every day. You know, I had a columnist who was like kind of a redneck guy who was really funny. His name was Randy Galloway. I was like a big Randy Galloway fan. When I was in high school, I started reading a lot of Bill Simmons. I mean, I think that's probably a story that like a lot of people in sports media have of like, oh man, I started reading Bill Simmons on Page 2, and like it was this new thing where he was combining sports and pop culture. And I was like, oh, that sounds really fun. I mean, I remember my dad one year when I was in high school got me the book of basketball for Christmas. And I read it in like a couple of days, and I was like, oh man, that was great. I love that. And I think I, you know, read it a couple more times. You know, definitely liked Lee Jenkins a lot when he was writing for Sports Illustrated. Great move by him to get out before the stuff got really bad and just go work for the Clippers. But yeah, that would probably be a couple people I've really like looked up to over the years.
So you mentioned Hakeem, and you talked about the pick and roll. I asked Will Guillory who would win in a one-on-one between you, him, and Lopez. Do you want to guess his answer, or do you want me to tell you what he said?
Oh man, dude, I'm getting like a little bit old too, so I'm like to the point where I'm like, you know, I just don't want to get hurt anymore. I'm gonna guess that Will said Will.
Will say you.
Wow.
Will say you would. He said you would win. He said you are tenacious defensively. He said you're a point guard. Man, Will's giving you basketball props, man. So it got me thinking, I think the Pelicans fans out here got you messed up, and like they don't know like you could hoop.
I mean, look, man, I'm 30 years old now, so I can't be like you know, my time in high school is it happened so long ago that it's like it's not even worth talking about anymore. But I do think that I would not say that I'm unathletic. You know, lettered in 3 sports at one of those big old high schools in Texas. So like, I'm definitely not like a guy who got into this because I was like, you know, like a nerd or anything. Like I definitely at least had like the sports background in high school and like did that. But you know, I don't want to oversell it at all or anything like that.
Hey, don't worry about it, because we go get to the end of this, and I'm gonna ask you if you want to call out anybody, but we'll get to that. Call out anybody to hoop, excuse me. We'll get to that though. We'll get to that.
Well, my actual take on that game is that nobody would want to watch that. Oh my god, that would be,
man, it's funny. Brutal. I've been playing with Will for playing basketball with Will for a long time. Will will tell you like Will's not gonna play defense. He just go stand in the corner. He go shoot.
He does have a nice jumper. Will is such a good jumper that even like Fred Vinson will be like Will go on the court and like shoot every once in a while after practice, and like Fred Vinson will be like, "It's a pretty nice shot, man." You know, that's pretty high praise when the Pelicans shooting guru is like, "Yeah, I don't think there's anything I would change in your jumper." I
mean, man, that's high praise. See, Will left that out. Will didn't tell me. Will's a humble guy, man. Will's a humble guy.
Listen, good people.
You, man, definitely for sure. You've worked at the Oklahoman, the Denverite, DNVR. What's your favorite city so far? And can you tell me what's the difference between, I guess, each organization you've worked for?
Yeah, man. My first job out of college, I was basically like the intern on the sports desk at the Oklahoman. And that was a great experience because like they've produced a lot of really good NBA writers, like Anthony Slater, who I think is one of the better like NBA writers doing it right now, was
Mhm.
there, and I just got to watch him do his thing. Darnell Mayberry, who's the Athletics Bulls beat guy now, was there. I mean, he's an excellent NBA reporter. Yeah, Denver, part of two different startups there. And, I kind of knew I wanted to do like cover the NBA full time. And so I just kind of started showing up at Nuggets games, and like, learning a little bit about it, and getting some reps that way, and like learning how to be in a locker room, and ask questions, and, like write semi-coherent copy and things like that. And then I was lucky enough to get this job, almost 4 years ago now, it's crazy. It has been an insane 4 years. I mean, I feel like one of those pictures of like the president before his term and after his term, like, Obama, like in 2012 and then Obama in 2016 or something like that. Like, that's how much I think, COVID and everything that's gone on has aged me, but it's been a lot of fun. And I don't know if I ever really have like a favorite out of those three places. COVID made this experience a little bit weird, but I feel like I've finally gotten to like really experience the city and what it's about, coming out of that. And I don't know, man, there's so much good about it. Like, I don't think this is like anywhere else in America, like it for so many reasons. And like, I've loved having this experience.
Man, that's cool. I mean, obviously being from him, glad you feel that way about it. You talked about showing up to games and getting in the locker rooms. So do you have is there a process to your work? Like, how do you build a story?
Yeah, I mean, what I do specifically, like being the beat guy for Null.com paper, I have to I kind of have to write a lot. And it's just different. Like, will write longer and, oftentimes more in depth. I just like, and those Will and Andrew like did the paper beat job too. Like, you just have to produce more content. And so like, I'm going into it like, all right, man, like probably 6 days a week, I have to write one story that's between 500 and 700 words. Like, I just have to get something up. And then like you're holding on to stuff that you want to like, really go long on. But I don't know, man, that's a good question. I mean, I just like, I think if you like, an important part of my job is like, I think of ideas like as the game is going on, but like I'll sit there for an hour and just like think of stories. Like before training camp starts in September, I'll definitely like sit down for like an hour for a couple days in a row and just be like, think deeply about the storylines and go through the roster and be like, well, what should I actually like try to say before this season starts? Like, I think one of the obvious things is like, this seems like it's going to be kind of a make or break season for Zion in New Orleans. And I think what is interesting to me about Zion at this point in time here is it could go like either way. Like, there's two wildly different outcomes for him in New Orleans. Like, I still think it's very much on the table for him to be the best player on a team that gets to the Western Conference Finals this year and play in the All-Star game and make first team All-NBA and finish like second MVP voting. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what happens this year, but it also wouldn't surprise me at all if this year goes like 3 of the first 4 years did. So I just think, like that's probably the most interesting thing to me at this really early point. Like, which one of those two ways is it going to go? Because we all see the talent, man. And I don't even know if people think I'm like a Zion hater, but I really don't think I report critically on him because like I think he's kind of deserved it because he just hasn't worked hard. I'm sorry. That's what it is. Like, he needs to work harder. And anyone will tell you that if you talk to people on the team, but he is incredible to watch. And he has like charisma. And I think he's a genuinely nice person too. So I'm like a fan. Like, I love watching him play. And I just want to see him be successful.
Have you ever seen anything like Zion before?
No, I think that's part of why it's so fun. It's just something completely new. Like I don't know, the best way I could try to put it is like to me, it's like if you scrunch down young Shaq to like 6'6", you know, like did the opposite of put him on the medieval stretching rack. Um, like like I think Rick Carlisle said when they played the Mavs a couple years ago, he's a Shaquille O'Neal type force with the point guard skill set. And, you know, Rick Carlisle doesn't like just throw that shit around. And that's like one of the smartest people in the NBA, you know, played, very successful coach. Like that always stuck with me. It's like, whoa, Rick Carlisle's giving him that praise.
Yo, you said Shaq. Listen, I always tell people this. Shaq is my, if we're picking, I don't care if I'm in a park, I'm in a gym, Shaq is my first pick every time.
I mean, I can't disagree. I mean,
so, like there's literally nothing you can do with him. But I agree. I feel the same way about Zion. And the thing is, like, for me, I don't know. Like, I know he's good. I always knew he was good, right? Man, the light really went off for me when that Minnesota Timberwolves game. I was just like, nah, he's on another planet. Like he doesn't make sense. Like he's you know the thing about him, like you say, you can obviously he doesn't work hard. You can see it, and not to say he's not putting in the work, but it's just not consistently hard work. But he's a gamer. And that's hard to account for because like there's no strategy for him. There's nothing that you can do to kind of like the best, I guess Milwaukee with Giannis and Brook were probably the hardest matchups I've seen with him. But other than that, man, like just have it. I mean, he literally was running through Embiid before he got hurt.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Like that is one of the things I like about him. Like when the lights turn on, like he does go hard. Like there really is in-game competitiveness. I think, you know, like the thing that needs to improve, and it sounds like he knows this and is working on, is like all that preparation before the lights go on and after the lights go on. Like getting sleep, you know, cutting junk food out of your diet, not eating late at night.
Yeah.
You know, like getting the right sleep, et cetera, all that different stuff. But like, yeah, man, you're totally right. Like, you know, in that 2 hours and 30 minutes when the game's going on, like he's definitely going hard.
Have you ever been, I guess, in a locker room post game and you couldn't think of a question to ask? Like there was nothing that came to you to ask?
Yeah, I mean, definitely early in my career was like, I'm not sure what to say now. I think that's gotten a little bit better as I've gone on. But honestly, like I'm not a person who sits up there. Like some guys can ask so many questions, like, and there's not like a right way to do it. But that's not really like, I just ask like 2-3 things, and like that's what I needed. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if I'm really curious about something, I guess I'll keep following up about it. But I don't know, man. I mean, like you're like, oftentimes what we're doing is just like reacting to the game. Right. So, you know, like if there's nothing like, you know, really specific I want to ask, I'll just ask about like an important part of the game. Like, what was your perspective on X, you know, like when the game kind of turned and things like that.
Give me your pros and cons of being on the road with the team.
Yeah, man. I mean, so, you know, we don't, like the beat guys who work for different outlets that aren't the Pelicans, like we don't fly with the team. So like I racked up a lot of Southwest miles, and, you know, in New Orleans, you're connecting a lot. So it's like, it is tiring. You get to see a lot of America, which is incredible. Like I'm not a person who did a ton of traveling when I was younger. So like I've gotten to see a lot of America, which has been, you know, like fantastic. I feel like I have like takes about different cities now, and all that. You know, I think if you're a beat writer who travels, it kind of gives you a little bit of credibility. It's like when people on the team and the players see you on the road, it's like, oh, okay, this guy's a company who's like paying for them to go on the road. Like, you know, it adds that little bit of credibility. But, you know, I've been doing this. This is my 4th year covering the Pelicans. You know, I'm married. Like, I just miss my wife and my dog a lot. And I don't know, man. I don't like, it's been really fun. I don't know if I'm like built to have that travel schedule forever. I think like, honestly, the job of a beat writer is changing, is only going to continue to change. And I think there are like real questions about what the best way to do it is and allocate like travel resources and things like that. But like the hardest part for me is just like, I just miss my wife and my dog when I'm on the road, basically. And I'm like, I just want to be home and see them.
I understand. What kind of dog you have?
Oh man, his name's Louis. We adopted him 3 years ago now. And when we got him, we were told that he was like mostly German Shepherd with some corgi. And then we did one of those doggy DNA tests for Christmas, and we found out he's like 90% Australian cattle dog. He's just a really fat Australian cattle dog. And so the people at the shelter just kind of had it wrong. Like they're like, I've never seen like a porky Australian cattle dog like this. And funny story, when we got him, his name was originally Chunky, and he was overweight. And we're like, we're not calling you Chunky, and we're going to get you in shape. So, you know, we take him on walks every day. He's got this diet food. He looks a lot better than he did. And his name is Louis now. And I think he's just living an overall better life.
It's funny you say that. I have a dog. I have 2 dogs, but one of my dogs, same situation. I got her from one of the rescue places. And so her name was Brownie because she's tan. Right? Like that's just genius. But so she was chunky as a puppy. They told me she was an American Bulldog mixed with a Bull Mastiff. So I'm thinking like she's gonna be like huge. No, man, she's got some sort of like Mastiff in her, but she's more like pittish, but she's still chunky. Anyway, her name is Lulu. So when you were saying Louie, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
How does your dog do in this heat?
Oh, well, she's fat, so like she hates it. she well, I'm not gonna say she loves it. She just wants to be outside. She loves to swim. Like when I was going running, like I would take her with me. But now it's like if I don't do it 6 a.m., between 6 and 7, I have to wait until maybe 7. But like I have another dog. My other dog is like a lab mixed with Catahoula. So she's insane. All she wants to do is run.
Really? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we can't even take Louis out like during the day right now. He's got like that kind of double coat thing. Like he'll like die of a heat stroke.
I understand. I used to have a husky, so I get it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that shedding and coat wise.
Oh my god, like that's the worst part of having a dog. Like the shedding is crazy. So besides the Pels injury situation, like is there any other thing in your opinion that's holding them back?
Oh, man. I mean, I think there were probably some legitimate criticisms about the coaching staff and like maybe the lack of offensive creativity. It seems like they've tried to address some of that by going out and getting James Borrego. I think they have a really like a pretty strong coaching staff. You know, I'm overall a fan of Willie Green. I think, you know, he's dealt a pretty tough hand when he came in, and I actually think he's played his cards pretty well. And like the Pelicans are still in a really good spot. You know, I think this year Borrego is effectively going to be the offensive coordinator. You're going to see Jaron Collins be effectively the defensive coordinator, and to me, that's like a really solid top 3. You know, in terms of coaching. You know, the one thing I still wonder about is what are they going to do at center? Jonas Valanciunas under contract for 1 more year. I think they definitely looked at some other options this summer. Obviously haven't done anything yet. Jared Allen was a guy who was rumored. To me, that would be like an incredible fit. But I just think we saw last year, like I love JV, offensively very talented guy. I think Willie honestly should have trusted him a little bit more last year. Defensively, he is limited. It seems like Willie, you know, wants more of a defensive-minded guy at center. So that's one of the big questions to me. Who is the starting center by the end of the season on this team?
In your opinion, why did Jackson Hayes work?
Oh, why didn't he work?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is probably just like mental focus. Like I just don't know if he was quite ready to be a pro and do everything that comes with that. And like he's 19 years old when he got drafted. Like I'm not you know, saying that like it's this horrible thing. Like a lot of these guys aren't, man. It's just weird business where, you know, you're on this huge stage and you're getting paid a lot of money when you're 19 years old. It's just really weird. Like I was an idiot when I was 19 years old. I was an idiot when I was like 22. I don't know. It took me like 25 to kind of sort of get it. So, but yeah, that was the thing to me. Like I look like a guy like Herb Jones, and he was a couple years older than Jackson as a rookie, obviously. But like Herb was ready to come in and be a pro from the day he got drafted, right? It's like, I am going to maximize my potential. I just don't think Jax was there yet. And the other thing I wonder about too is he had his most success in New Orleans playing power forward. I don't think that was a coincidence, because I just don't think he's mastered a lot of the things you need to do to be successful as a center defensively. And, you know, he can become more professional, but like, I'm wondering if that part of the equation is ever going to go off for him, if that light bulb will ever go off for him of like being the big defending a pick and roll. And like, I'm going to kind of like duck over here and pretend like I'm going to stop the guard and then get back to the big guy. And then I'm block out and get this rebound. I'm really curious if he ever gets that part of the game.
I would like to see, I want to see him and LeBron together. I think one of the things here with him is, you know, bigs are heavily relying on guards, and we really didn't have a guard to kind of get him involved in the game. I mean, Jose did. Jose's probably the only actual like point guard on the team. I do think that Jax has potential. I always say to myself, like, year 6, 7 for him, he's just gonna get it. He's gonna get it. But like it was just a different timeline than the Pelicans were on, unfortunately, and you know, it didn't work out because I don't know. I mean, I think he signed for the minimum in LA. So,
and the reporting I've read there too is, you know, he could potentially start. Like maybe we see him and AD start together, which would just be hilarious. You know, if you're a Pelicans fan, it's like Jackson Hayes and AD starting together. Okay.
He would, and I think they have him pegged the center too. So I mean, that's the other thing. Like, I mean, you would think that AD would probably slide to the 5, but no. Seems like Jackson is going to be the center. So we'll see how that works. Like I don't know. It's just
last day of the regular season. Lito, Lakers in New Orleans.
Really?
Yep.
Damn, I totally okay.
Regular season finale in New Orleans, Pels versus Lakers.
Jackson Hayes homecoming game, AD homecoming game. Yo, why does LeBron? It feels like LeBron took the beef on, and he hates the Pelicans also. The kid plays extremely hard against the. I don't know if people notice that. He plays like his career is depending on it when he plays us.
He really does get up for those games. It's pretty funny. I wonder if he's going hard, you know, because he wants to like show support to his guy AD. I wonder if it's at all related to David Griffin. Those two obviously worked together in Cleveland. If you remember, right, when Griff got the job, made some comments to Sports Illustrated about LeBron's not the same animal about winning, that he then walked back and said, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I don't know. It's a good question.
Griff is a funny guy, man. Griff is a funny guy. Griffisms, he uses certain quotes, certain phrases, like everything is family. It's just he's I've never met him, like, obviously, but like he's an interesting guy to listen to talk. I forgot what you said his background was, but I could tell public relations, was it?
He worked for the Suns, I think, a long time ago in the public relations department. Yeah,
I could see it. I feel like somewhere he had to sell cars somewhere in between, like before he got into the NBA. Like
I think it's a really interesting track record because the Pelicans are like absolutely in a way better place organizationally than they were, you know, before he got here. And like, there's been so much good, but it just hasn't like translated to winning in the way anyone would have liked yet. And it could.
Man, Griff pretty much, it's been a whirlwind since he got here. And whirlwinds are always bad. Like, it's been a good whirlwind too. I mean, he basically upgraded the training facility. You know, he's upgraded the coaching staff. The Pelicans in general have a higher profile than what they had before he came. Obviously, you know, Zion does a lot of that for us too. But like, speaking of the Pelicans though, let me ask you this: as far as you know, was there any real substance in like the Scoot thing? Like, do you think at some point like they were like just like, fuck it, man, we're just gonna make the move?
I mean, yeah, I think there was real substance. I think Shams Charania with The Athletic put out right before the draft like they met with Scoot in person. So like to me, that indicates real substance. Like you don't meet with the guy when you have the number 14 pick, and you know a guy's going to go in the top 3. I don't think you meet with him in person and a couple of days before the draft, unless you are seriously considering going up and getting him. So I think that's all you need to know about that.
Gotcha. I mean, I was always pro Scoot, but that's just me.
I love Scoot.
Dude, I went to see him at Summer League. Me and Five were at Summer League, and we were watching him play in like his first game right before like Wemby played, and it was just like his first step is so much quicker than everybody. Like his game, he's not the biggest guy but on the floor, but he plays with so much power. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, he's got like that, like, I don't know, 6'8" wingspan. He's already has like a grown man body. He's kind of like, built like an NFL safety or something. I mean, he's just going to get by whoever he wants to on the dribble. He's got a nice like mid-range pull-up already. I think he's a pretty good passer. I'm a believer for sure. That
was the thing that I think caught my attention. His mid-range pull-up is like nasty. And he stops on a dime, and you know how I want to say maybe 2016, 17, Russell Westbrook and OKC, when he would like get a full head of steam and he would just stop at the free throw line and just shoot it. And it was like before his, I don't know, whatever weird thing happened with his jumper, but when he was making that shot, like Scoot was just hitting it at a really proficient rate. And it was like seeing a guy with that kind of athleticism be able to do that. Like, I don't know what answer. And the thing was, he was playing against Amen Thompson, and he's athletic as hell also. But he was making him look like a step slow in his, defense. So I don't know, man. I'm excited to see Scoot. I really wish Pels could have, found a way to. I mean, even with the picks that we sitting on, like I don't know if necessarily Portland would have wanted just picks. I'm sure they would have wanted a player. It probably would have wanted Zion or Brandon, but I don't know. Speaking of Brandon, do you put any stock into his FIBA performance?
I think I've watched 4 of the 5 games that Team USA has played so far, of those exhibition games. And, he did not play well at all against Germany, but I actually thought he played pretty well. Like the first handful of times I got to watch him. It's not like putting up gaudy stats or anything, but he was making some shots and like doing a lot of little stuff. Like he was blocking a lot of shots in those early games. I thought he was playing pretty good defense. I mean, I thought he had just a bad game against Germany, but I'm really not putting that much stock into it, honestly. I love like watching international basketball. It's got like a good flow. And I like seeing these guys in different contexts too. Like I think that's really valuable. Of like, all right, you're putting a lot of really good players together. Like, who are they going to look at as like, we think this guy's our go-to guy? It's kind of been Anthony Edwards so far.
It's a bad man.
But I just love seeing these guys in like a different context. But I'm not worried at all, man. I mean, I thought he played pretty good the first 3 games. He didn't play well against Germany, but it's one game.
Jalen Brunson has been hard to watch. That's all I have to say about that.
I'm on team start Tyrese Halliburton.
Man, yes, indeed. Please, he's had, I think 3 games of double-digit assists, right? Like, or maybe 2, but.
Yeah. And I just think too, it's like your other starters, like you got Ann in there, like he's going to want a lot of shots. BI, like I think you need more of like a table setter than a scorer.
Do you see, okay, let me ask you this. As a B guy, as a guy who covers the team, do you see a lot of, like, do you watch the timeline as far as like how fans are reacting to players?
I mean, I guess just, I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I'll just like mute people if I'm like, this has just been like too many awful takes in a row. I don't want to like be a jerk and unfollow, but like, I don't know. I mean, I try to just like give my own perspective too, because that's like, I guess a little bit of how I provide value. But yeah, I mean, I guess like in what way do you mean specifically?
Okay, so let me ask you: do you see the CJ, the overly critical CJ analysis like of the fans on the timeline? Like, how do you feel like? I guess what I should ask is, do you feel like they're being overly critical of him?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, he didn't play well last year. I mean, I think, like there's a lot of legitimacy to, he was just really hurt, and like that thumb injury was serious. And when it's a thumb injury in your shooting hand, like that's going to affect you. And, like CJ has such a long track record of like winning and playing really well, and he's still not old. Like
Yeah.
I'm not worried about CJ at all. I think he's gonna have a really nice season this year. Like to me, it meant something that he like tried to play through his stuff. Like I honestly think him and Larry were kind of making a point to like maybe younger players on the team of like, look, man, like everyone is dealing with some discomfort. You got to try to play. But I don't know, man. I mean, like the Pelicans definitely don't make the playoffs the year before if they don't make that CJ trade. And overall, I think he's like been good for the Pelicans.
I guess the reason why the discourse is kind of crazy to me is because like people were saying he was shooting too much, but like obviously the guys who were supposed to take those shots weren't playing, or either they weren't available or whatever, right? And for me, like he led the team in assists. He was third in rebounding. He shot 38% from three. He still averaged 20 while he didn't have like obviously like the best year. It's just kind of crazy because people look at it like a down year, and I'm like, well, I mean, he still averaged 20 a game. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I think that, and the reason why I said it, I just literally did a show on this, but like there, the James Harden thing is out there. Like people like trade CJ for James, and I'm like,
I don't think they should. And here's what I know: they won't trade for him, so you don't even have to entertain it. Like Griff is just not a James Harden guy at all.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
It's
I
hard.
mean, Harden's 34. Like you want to like add a lot of years onto that. I mean, yeah, it just that doesn't make sense to me at all.
Fourth greatest shooting guard of all time.
That's your take? James Harden is?
I think James is the fourth greatest shooting guard of all time.
Who's your top three?
Mike, Kobe, D Wade.
Okay.
I think James revolutionized a bit of the offense, like this offensive charge in the NBA as far as like creatively like scoring and getting to the bucket. Like James was shooting like 17 free throws a game at one point. The step back for me is all him. Like he was doing it on such a like he was really stepping back. Like he was stepping to the side. Like, I know Luka does it now too. But like when I see it, I just think James.
I mean, he's like an incredible talent. Just the skill, I think he's like one of the most skilled basketball players to like ever do it.
His usage is just too high though.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Denver for 4 years, and like many nights I watched the Rockets roll in and just kick the Nuggets ass. And like the Rockets, like the kind of one of Jokic's only weaknesses is if you get him in the spread pick and roll, you can make him look silly every once in a while. And like when the Rockets had Harden, that's just what they did. They're like spread pick and roll. I can like bring you out here. I'll throw it over the top to Capella. Like there were so many nights where they just like made the Nuggets look kind of silly. That's like really what I remember about James.
Well, that's the other thing too. Me and Justin just talked about this on another podcast also, but James got Clint Capella paid. He gets PJ Tucker paid. He get, what I'm saying? Like James gets his guys paid at least. I can say that. He has a high usage, but he still like leads the league in assists at some. It's just he's a weird conundrum of talent, but like his usage is too high. He would never at his peak. Though his style of play, because he was always exhausted come playoff time.
What do you think his best move is right now? Like if you were his advisor, what would you say to do right now?
Man, I feel like, to be honest, I feel like him and Embiid like are the number one and two, like the number one as far as like the one and two guys. Like they play so well together. Like I think that Embiid Harden pick and roll has been incredible to see. I see no reason why he should leave Philly now. I don't know. You know, he says he was promised to be traded, and I know he wants to be paid or extended. But at 34, you kind of got to take what you could get. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think I see no reason why he should leave Philly. I mean, you got Maxey waiting in the wing. Maxey doesn't have a lot of responsibility because James can do all of the things, and Maxey just can come in and play free. Embiid can still get good looks. Harden is a good enough shooter from three still. The problem is that when James can't get separation to get to the lane to get the layups that he used to get because of the hamstrings, like he just doesn't have that burst anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm kind of with you. I think his best move is just to make up with the Sixers, like go back. You still have a really good team. Like you can compete for a championship this year. Like play as well as you can this year. You want to get paid, like have a good year. That's the best way to try to get paid. I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody really wants to trade for you. So go and ball this year, and then you're an unrestricted free agent. Go sign with whoever.
That's the problem, though. That's the problem with James. That's the problem. The ego problem, unfortunately, is the thing that like holds him back. Because like at certain times, like when you have, especially when he's on the Rockets, when you have Chris Paul there and you had Russell Westbrook there, like that Chris Paul, it's so funny, man. That version of the Rockets was the only team, in my opinion, who could have beat that Golden State team. They were the only threats in them, and then they literally went 0 for 30 from 3. So like, that was crazy. But the fact that game went, that series went 7 because like James was just going crazy, and Chris Paul, you wouldn't even think that they could play together, but Chris Paul is just a smart basketball player.
Look, I think I told you earlier, I love the psychos. I love Chris Paul. The last James Harden thing I got for you is I think Kevin McHale had like the best take on all this. He coached James Harden, and he's like, look, like James is a great player. He has consistently like not wanted to do a lot of the little stuff. Daryl let him get away with it, and this is where we are now. Like I think I'm not saying like James Harden needs to be like an all NBA defensive guy, but like there've been a lot of times throughout his career, it's like if he doesn't have the ball, he's just not moving. He's just not moving at all, right? And it's like Steph Curry when he doesn't have the ball, he's moving everywhere. Like that's a small thing that's really a big thing. It's like if you don't have the ball, like do something else. Don't just like stand there 35 away from the hoop. And I think that's kind of an example of what McHale is talking about.
Not only does he stand 35 feet, he'll continually back up. Where are you going? But that's my problem, to be honest, with a lot of the NBA. Like, I feel like that about Luka. I feel like that about Trey. Like, when you don't have the ball, which coincidentally is one of the Pelicans' problems, in my opinion, because there's no movement. There's not enough motion in the offense. Like, you have Trey who can spread the floor out. You have CJ who's a crazy good shooter from 3. I mean, he shot a crazy good percentage, right? Like, you should be able to get good looks, but like if guys if they don't have the ball, they just go stand there. Like, and also putting guys in positions to like you just sit Herb in a corner. Like that's just I'm not running out the Herb. I'm sorry, no disrespect to Herb, but I'm not. He's gonna have to make at least 3 in a row for me to really contest those shots.
Yeah.
What do you think the Pelicans' record will be this season?
42-40 last year with everything that went wrong. I'm gonna say 49 wins.
49. Okay. I say 48. I'm gonna get you out of here in 1 second. We just got to get a message from a bill collector. Then I'm gonna get you out of here.
With the NFL season right around the corner, nonstop football action is in sight. You can get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Life's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app before kickoff. Use code BOOT to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you just bet $5 on any NFL bet. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours.
That is the voice of Justin Jermaine Napoli. Jermaine is really not his middle name. I just make that up, but he has a voice for radio. So shout out to Justin.
That was a nice ad read voice.
Man, I'm telling you, man. Like we've been trying to tell him, he sounds like a bill collector in that ad. So that's what we've been calling him, the bill collector. I have 3 questions, Christian, and I'm gonna get you out of here. I promise. One, I kind of alluded to this earlier. Anybody in Pel's Twitter, you feel like not respecting your game, you want them to see you on the court. It's okay if you don't have anybody.
No, man. You just, I mean, look, there's some stuff that's like, oh, that's frustrating, but like, you just got to put out your content and keep it moving. Like that's my advice to people. It's like just put out what you think you should do, what you think is best, what you think is the truth, and like keep it moving.
No doubt, I understand that. Any advice for young journalists trying to get to where you are today?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would just say read a lot and like, you know, like read New York Times, read Wall Street Journal, read movies, listen to podcasts. Like if you want to work in media, like consume a bunch of media from a bunch of different sources. And like, I don't know, like I love reading books about the NBA, you know, like I probably read like 5-10 books about the NBA every year. Just like consume all that stuff if you want to write about the NBA.
What's your favorite book?
Oh man. I think the best NBA book I've read in the last few years is the one that Ethan Strauss wrote about the Warriors. It's called The Victor Machine. That was pretty excellent. The Breaks of the Game is really good. Man, yeah, those are probably like a couple ones I'd put up there right now.
My obligatory question that I have to ask, since I've asked Jono Barnes this since the first one, are you AI? Are you a computer program, or are you a real person? Because we have not seen your hands this whole podcast.
I'm a real person. I got AI in the background. That's the only AI that's on the screen.
Christian
right
with the spin, man. I like that. Okay? Last question. What's next for you?
Great question, man. I mean, that's like the interesting thing about media. It's like there's not really like a blueprint to follow. You know, it's kind of just like everyone's doing a slightly different thing, and it leads to different outcomes. I have no idea. I feel fortunate to have like gotten this job and gotten to cover this team the last 4 years, even though there's been a lot of dysfunction, because it's been really interesting. Like it has been nothing if not interesting.
No doubt. And that was a great question. I mean, a great answer. I'm sorry. I mean, it was a great question too, but like it was a great answer. That's all I got, man. You tell the people where they can find you at. Tell them what you're working on, if anything.
Yeah, man. I'm on Twitter at @cclark_13. You can read my stuff on Noel.com. I'm a co-host of the From the Wing podcast, and nothing really cooking. I'll just be watching a bunch of FIBA, man. That's what I'll be doing for the next few weeks.
Shout out to Adam, man. Adam is funny. That's all I got, man. Thank you for you know what I'm saying, pulling up. I'm sure we'll do this again in the future. It probably won't be an hour, but I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me.
No doubt.
Can you believe we've had 7 months without an NFL game? Crazy, right? Well, good thing that's over. NFL's here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is giving you a can't-miss offer. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 on any NFL game. DraftKings is hooking everyone up with game day greatness. Download now and use code BOOT to sign up. New customers can take home $200 in bonus bets instantly just for betting $5. That's code BOOT, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours.